Hello, everyone. Welcome. This is the coaching club. I'm Mark Dayton, the Who Coach. We're excited to have you along with us. And this is the month of January, and this month the topic is freedom. So we're going to explore an interesting angle on freedom today. So buckle up and let's dive right in. So if I were to say to you, you can have one wish to be free of something, freedom from something. What would you choose? I can be free from fill in the blank.
I got an answer.
Okay, Janae,
Worry.
free from worry. Oh, and how would that change your life?
Ooh, oh, I would just have more peace.
Okay, wonderful. Yeah, you'd be free from all that worry and anxiety and even maybe some of the physical manifestations of worry, and you would be at peace. Beautiful, wonderful. Thank you. Well, as I thought about that, I thought of a lot of different things I could be free from, but something that I've been studying a lot lately that I would really love to be free from, and I'd like to dive into it more with you tonight, and that is freedom from immaturity. Okay? That may sound a little odd, but let's explore that one a little bit. So I've got my magic camera here. I'm going to go ahead and turn this thing on, and let's explore that for a minute. So tonight we're talking about freedom, and we're going to talk about freedom from immaturity. And so let's first talk about maturity. So what is maturity? The opposite of immaturity, right? Any thoughts on how you would define maturity?
I have a daughter that's really mature,
Okay.
and she'll send me this message that says this. Before I get all upset about your behavior, would you like to explain to me why you did XYZ?
Um, okay.
And I just love that because she's like telling me I want to be all upset, but I don't understand it. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna hold off getting all upset.
So she's taking a step back and really trying to get to the bottom of what's going on before she reacts to it.
Yes.
Very mature. Yeah, that's a really great response. Well, as
And
I
you know,
go
the
ahead.
same daughter also, when you get to her house, there's a list of rules.
Really?
Uh-huh. Because she's figured out certain things trigger her, so she's got them on the fridge. These are things that you can and can't do.
That is so smart.
Yeah, one of them's talking about religion.
Okay.
Where she's free to do it. So she's not perfect in this area. But I just think, well, that's so mature because she knows that she might get triggered. She doesn't want to do that. So
Yeah.
she just tells you up front. No talking about religion in my house.
Wow. That is very, very wise. That's mature. It really is. Setting the boundaries and really understanding what what is going to trigger her and what's going to create um, a situation where you're not free to enjoy a relationship and to enjoy a visit and that kind of interaction. So to me, that makes a lot of sense. Does it seem to be working for you, the two of you?
Yeah, I noticed I'm more mature around her. We
Uh-huh.
went trip to Disneyland once that was disastrous because
Oh,
I was acting really immature because we were in Disneyland. So I was like trying to have fun, and I just drove her crazy. Like the next day, I was like, I figured out what it is I do that bugs you, and she said, "What?" it's be myself.
Oh.
So so I remembered all the stuff that I did that bugged her. And when I went to visit her, I like to sing to people all the time. And
Uh-huh.
can I sing you a song? And she was like, actually, no. That was great because I didn't have to feel bad.
Yeah, good.
I didn't have to sing the song and then have her react. I
Yeah,
just sing it.
that is the perfect segue to what if you boil it all down, I believe that maturity ultimately comes down to this. How aligned are you with truth? And when you're aligned with truth, then you're also aligned with high maturity, right? If that's always your North Star, then you're also going to be enjoying a lot more freedom.
So that reminds me of my class I did last month. Remember we were doing victor versus victim, and
Right.
I ended up with a list of this is how act and this is how victors act. And there was one that you're hitting on, and it was victors want the truth. Victims want you to lie to them so that they can feel comfortable. But victors want the truth even if it hurts.
That is so powerful. That is really, really powerful. Thank you for sharing that. And you just illustrated it with your conversation with your daughter, where she was like, "No, I don't want you to sing to me." And
Yeah.
like you said, she could have said, "Oh, yeah, go ahead and sing," and then she'd be upset, and then and then you're in not in a good place, not in a mature place because it wasn't aligned with truth. So perfect. Thank you.
I
Go ahead.
have another example of my friend Eddie. He's only
Okay.
28 and he teaches me all the time. He teaches me so much stuff. Well, I was really, really mad at him and I wrote down 23 reasons why I was mad at him.
Okay.
And, they were only for me. The list was only for me. I never thought I'd share it with them. And so I just thought and thought. I studied that list of 23 things and I got it down to one sentence. And I said to him, I'm so proud of myself. I boiled it down to this one sentence that I need to say to you. But I, I made a mistake because I told him the whole story of the 23 things. And he goes, I want to know the 23 things. And it was terrible. Like I would read them off and he would cry and
Oh
we'd
my
talk
goodness.
about it, and it was terrible. But then after the 23 things, he was different and I was different.
Huh. So you got the truth out on the table and worked through it.
Yeah, I've never had anybody be like that before.
Wow.
And I was crying the whole time. Like I was like, I don't really want to read the list, Eddie. And he's like, yeah, you're gonna. I was like, no, yeah. And so he talked me into it and
Give me
it
the
was
truth.
so painful. Every single one was like,
Wow.
well, this happened and you respond like that, and I'm mad about it.
Wow. That's really good. That is where it takes true courage to go through those kinds of things. Well, let's rewind just a little bit and start with a really simple example just to kind of illustrate this from a different angle. So let's say that you are dead asleep one night and suddenly you hear this blood-curdling scream from your child's bedroom and you rush in there. What's wrong? What's wrong? There's a monster in my room. And you just like, no, there is not a monster in your room. Yes, there is. I saw a monster in my room. And so you turn on the light and you go, see, there's no monster. But maybe he's under the bed. Maybe he went into the closet. There's no such thing as monsters. So you try to calm the child down, you turn off the light. I hope the monster doesn't come back, still believing in monsters, and so you go back to bed. So what do you say about that experience from a maturity standpoint?
Well, I think it'd be cool if you could get down to their level
Yeah,
and give them a flashlight, maybe,
yeah,
and show them in the closet, show them under the bed,
right.
and compassion.
Help them
That's
get a
what
little,
lacking in that story was compassion for the child. So
okay,
the truth is that they believe in monsters, and that in that example, the parent didn't address the truth.
okay. The truth in the child's mind was that there are monsters, right?
Yes,
But from an absolute truth standpoint, that's not true, right? So
right.
we say, well, the child's just immature, and we give we give children a break because they're immature. They just, they're learning and they're growing. So thank you for your point on the compassion part. But the point I'm trying to illustrate is that that is an immature response because it's not aligned with truth. Um, but it's okay because that child is immature and we know how to deal with that, right?
Yes,
So here's another example. So a friend of mine uh, grew up with a cousin. Her cousin was a boy cousin the same age as her, and they grew up and they did things together quite often. And the boy cousin was kind of a tease. And so one time my friend was over at his house and he got, teasing her, and she finally I don't know if they were tussling or what, but she finally kicked him, and she kicked him in the mouth and knocked out one of his teeth. It was a baby tooth, but it knocked out one of his teeth. So, big scene, and the mom came out, and everybody's upset. And, I mean, these kids are like, I don't know, maybe 5 years old at the time. So, fast forward 20 years, and 30 years, and 40 years, and every time these two get together with the family, the mother has to tell this story about how she kicked him in the mouth and it was so traumatic and he's never going to get over it and it's so terrible. And every time she has to tell the story. And so the, the result is my friend is very upset and not feeling like she wants to even have a relationship here. She and her cousin have talked about this many times and have even laughed about it. It's like, oh yeah, we were kids, so whatever, and the boy says, yeah, I was probably being mean to you, and I probably deserved it. Ha ha ha. They're way past it, but the mom can't let it go. So in this case, yeah, the truth is that he got kicked, but the bigger truth here is that it's done. I mean, it's not an issue anymore. And so she's living over here in uh, uh, in immaturity and not in an area of truth, because the truth is the people who are involved don't really care anymore. It's done, it's gone. And she's living over here, as you mentioned, Janae, in victimville, right? And holding on to that and not letting go of it. So when we're not aligned with truth, if we're aligned with truth, then we can be highly mature which sets us free to have the best things in life, to have great relationships, to have freedom to move without um, without worry and without concern and all of those kinds of things. But if we're stuck over here in victimville, or if we're stuck in holding on to something that actually isn't true, then our maturity level is much lower, and we're going to have challenges with that. Any comments on that?
Yeah, I've been wrestling with a problem,
Okay,
and looking at your paper really helps me with the problem.
okay.
The problem is whether or not to quit one of my jobs.
That's a big decision.
Yeah, and the truth is, there's two people I work with that are not mature.
Okay.
And so I just keep saying to myself over and over all the time, this is a really good job. I should just be able to just say, oh, well, about the way these people behave because I get free food and all this stuff. Like, it's a really, it should be an awesome job. But the fact that I don't like, there's only two people in the whole company that don't like me, and they're both my bosses. They're team bosses, and I don't get along with either one. So I've been trying to decide what to do.
Hmm.
Well, the
Well,
truth is, I can't control them. And the truth is, when they're being themselves, I'm going to get triggered because they're not very mature people.
okay.
So if I'm totally honest with myself, the best thing I can do is put distance between me and them.
There you
Because
go.
I've tried to just say, oh, well, I've tried that for months. It doesn't always work.
Well, hang on to that thought and let's come back to that, okay? Let me share
Yeah.
a couple more ideas with you here, and then let's come back and wrap on that. I think that's a perfect example. Okay, so let's move from the theoretical to, well, the one was an actual experience, but I want to move it to Janae, since you brought it up, this is the perfect segue again. This is one of my favorite books. It's called Intelligent Leadership by John Mattone. And just it's been life-changing for me from a leadership standpoint and understanding all those issues and how to become a better leader. And one of the things that I mean, it's pretty dense. It's pretty I guess I would say technical. You really have to study it out. But the bottom line, one of the key bottom lines that he came to was there are all these different leadership traits that he actually can test for and tell you where you lie on these different traits. But on every one of the traits, the difference between great leaders and ineffective leaders is how mature they are in that trait. So it comes down to maturity. And I thought, oh my goodness, this is so interesting. And the more I studied it and got into it, it makes perfect sense. And it has to do with maturity and being aligned with truth, with core truth. And how aligned are you? So here's an example. The trait, one of my leading traits from the testing they did was they call it the entertainer trait, and that's somebody who likes to, put the vision out there and get people excited about it and share, here's where we're going to go, kind of thing. And he identifies mature traits, what he calls middle of the road traits, and what he calls derailer traits. That's very immature traits. So let's start with one. Here's an example of one that is in the middle of the road category. Okay. So I have another friend. Here's an example of this. Um, so the middle of the road trait is constantly compare yourself to others. Okay. Constantly compare yourself to others. I have a friend who I really love this guy. He's a great guy, um, very successful. We have a lot of good times together, but when we get together, this is always what comes up. And it's always like, oh wow, hey, look, wow, that's a really cool new car. How much did that cost? And I wonder how, I wonder what your house is worth now. And I mean, it's just always, always, always about money. And then I don't know if how's your portfolio doing? I don't know how my portfolio, and it's always about money and comparing where he's at with where somebody else is at. And it really used to bug me. It really, really bugged me because then it was just like, oh man, well, maybe I mean, why am I not making as much money as he is? And I'm just as smart as he is, and you know, and then I go off into spin off into that circle. And at one point I just had to step back and say, okay, what's the truth here, really? What is the truth? And the truth is, yeah, he made a lot of money. That's the truth. But the truth also is that he's being very immature about it because the truth is, he's very insecure. And he's always comparing himself to somebody else. He's always unsure about whether he is rich enough or successful enough or whatever else. And the truth is, he is very insecure. And so I can look at that and say, oh, the truth is he's insecure, and my response doesn't have to be immature. If I respond in the same way over here and say, oh, I wonder if I have enough money, and oh, I wonder what, why is he so successful and I'm not so successful? And then I go down to that rabbit hole. The truth is, I'm who I am, and I'm as rich or poor as I am, but I'm okay with that because that's who I am. And truth about him is that he's very insecure and he's acting very immature. So there's a it's difficult. It's difficult not to react with immaturity with more immaturity. But the trick is if you can step back and say, what's the truth here really? The truth really is he's rich, but the truth really is that he's also very immature about it, and he's very uh, unsure of himself about it. Make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Another trait. Let's just talk about this one. Another one that he talks about is some people who are hyper competitive. You know anybody like that?
Yes, you're describing this boss that's driving me crazy. And she she always has to one up you.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's such a perfect example. That's who I was thinking of too. This person is like, everything's a competition. It's like, oh well, did you do it in a minute and a half or 2 minutes, And I mean everything is a competition. And it
Yeah, she always has to know more. Like this morning, somebody asked a question that was like, "What was driving? What was upsetting? What's his name? I can't say the name because they're the client. What
sure.
was upsetting him?" And I said, "Oh, I think too many people." And she was like, "Actually," I was like, her answer might have even been more accurate than mine. It's just the way she does it.
Just the
Like,
know-it-all.
actually, I'm the only smart person here.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's every time. It's just like, okay, we're not all idiots and you're not the only smart person. That's not the truth.
So what is the truth?
Yeah, the truth is that she has to remind you that she's the boss the whole time. And
Okay.
it gets really old.
Mhm.
And the truth is, she really likes to hear herself talk. And so her and this other guy talk all night, all the time about nothing.
Mm.
And I'm like, oh, and so I'll put on headphones and move away so I can't hear him talk. And sometimes she'll be like, Janae, you're being so quiet. And I'm just like, yep, I know. I don't want to be part of this. Like she had this whole conversation about
Mm.
she wants to go buy some socks. And I'm like, when I want to buy socks, I don't bring it up. I don't make a conversation about it.
So here's an idea. Let me float this one by you, okay?
Mhm.
So let's go back to this guy. When this comes up, I have a couple of choices. I can get really upset, I can react with immaturity, or I can actually change the frame that I'm looking through, and I can say, oh, this is a child. This person is immature. And so, okay, they're going to do what they're going to do. I'll try to calm them or whatever I can, but they're a child, they're immature, and they're going to have to grow out of that or deal with it or whatever. The truth is that we know the truth about what's going on, and they're not aligned with truth. And so we can change our frame of how we look at that situation so that we can stay aligned here with maturity and not react with immaturity.
Yeah, so Natalie Peace taught a class once, and I was the only one on the class. And I was complaining about this woman, and I was like, and she never figures it out. She never does this. And Natalie said, you know what she always does? And I was like, what? She always shows up as herself. So that really helps me with this boss person because I'm like, yep, she's always being herself.
I had a situation where, long story, but a really, really difficult situation for me with somebody who was treating me horribly. And it was really tearing me up. And I had this, after months, I had this epiphany one day of, oh my goodness, this person is actually hurting more than I am. This person is actually more damaged than I am. Right? And it was like, oh my goodness, it was like the blinders came off. And from that time onward, I instead of looking at them as my antagonist and this awful person, I every time I looked at him, I thought, oh, you're just a kid. You just haven't figured this out yet. You're just immature. Okay. You believe there are monsters, so I'm not going to change your thinking on that. So that do what you're going to do. I'm going to stay aligned with truth, and I know what the truth is. And the truth is that I don't have to be triggered by you. I can stay true to me. And I love what you said, that she was just showing up as her, right? He was just showing up as him. So okay, you show up as immature you, and I'm going to stay mature me and aligned with truth because I know where truth is on this.
I love this discussion.
Thank you. So just one last example. If you go to one last one that he talks about in people who are in the derailing, like the most immature category. He has a list of things that they do. One of them is undermine those who have moved ahead. Okay. That's what derailer kind of people, undermining kind of people do. So somebody gets ahead, somebody succeeds, a mature person is going to go, yay, celebrate, that's great, woohoo, you did it. A middle of the road person is going to go, why did they get to do that and I didn't get to do that, and I'm not as good as they are involved. But the derailer person, the most immature person, is going to say, oh yeah, well, we'll see how long you stay on top of the pile, buddy. And those are people who actually come after you if you succeed, right? And again, we have the option, we have the choice, we have the freedom of choosing to react with immaturity, to extreme immaturity, or to stay the course, take the high ground, say, no, I know what the truth is. The truth is that I did work hard. I did sacrifice. I did succeed. I did add a lot of value. That's the truth. And nothing you're going to say or do is going to change that. And I'm not gonna argue with you. I'm not gonna become vindictive or try to get even, but I'm not gonna take your immature fits either. And it's hard. It's really, really hard. But if we can step back and say, what's the truth here really? And maybe change the frame of how we look at these people and look at it through, oh, really what they are is they're the monster in the closet person, or they're the stuck on the money person, or whatever it is. And they're going to have to figure out their maturity, but I'm going to stick with truth because I want to be free, be me, right?
Yes. So I've been thinking I should quit the one job and ask the other job if they could get me up to where I'm making right now with working the two jobs.
Oh,
Why? And right before the call, I thought, what the reason I can't decide is I don't have all the information. I need to ask the other job if they could get me up to that amount,
what a
and
great,
then I'll have all the information. But the other job, they treat me like I'm so smart and they love me and the people call and beg for me.
that is a great idea. Ha! What a breakthrough. That is a super cool idea.
Yeah, and so you explained why the other job is so much more enjoyable. It's because everybody's mature.
Yeah, they're acting mature. They're acting in line with truth. Truth is, you are very capable. You're very smart. You're very likable and competent. And they respect that and treat you that way because they're aligned with truth. That's the truth. And in your other job, they're being immature. They're being over here or they're being over here. And they're being very immature and treating you like this is the truth, and it's not aligned at all with the actual truth.
Yeah, the one lady, sometimes I say stuff to her and she doesn't understand, and she just reacts to what she thinks I said.
Oh yeah, yeah. So here's a way to work through it. And when something triggers us, it's really easy to just react. And often that reaction is going to be immaturity for immaturity, right? Because that's just the way we're wired. But if we can take a pause and step back and say, okay, here's the way I would work through it. I would say, what is the immature behavior? What are they actually doing, saying, that kind of thing. And then describe it, get some detail out here so you can really understand what it is they're doing. And then this is the key point. And then say, what is the truth really? What is really going on here? And then what would be a mature response? And what is the freedom that I'm going to enjoy because of that? And that kind of helps you process it and take a more objective viewpoint of, because we're going to all get triggered and then things get cloudy, right? And emotions boil over and that kind of thing. But if we can step back and identify, so what's going on, really understand that, oh, is this the monster in the closet kind of thing? What is the truth actually? And how can I stay the course, stay true to truth, and what kind of freedom is that going to bring me? Any idea, any thoughts on that?
I love it. Well, so I need to bring up the other boss because I
Okay, yeah,
kind of did that.
let's do that.
Um,
I'm gonna turn this other camera on. Keep going.
yeah, so I was having a conversation with him and he just totally kind of lashed out at me. And I was like, and then I just thought it through. And I thought, okay, he said that because he's frustrated with me. And rather than say to me, I'm frustrated with you, he's got to do this rude stuff that he said to me. And so
Yeah.
I really thought, how do I want to respond? So I had this whole conversation with him in my mind where I say, you're obviously frustrated with me, or you
Mhm.
wouldn't have said that.
And that's the truth, right?
Right.
And you're calling, you're putting the truth out there and calling him on it rather than letting him go off and do a tantrum and act like a 3-year-old.
Yeah.
You're being the mature adult here. You're saying, okay, the truth is, I don't know why this triggered you. It apparently triggered you, but let's talk about it. That's the
Yeah.
that's the mature way to deal with these things. I love it. Good for you. Go, go. That's so cool. I love your idea of talking to your other work about leveling you up. That's so cool. I love it. That's,
Yeah. I love that other work. It's Visiting Angels of Salt Lake. I worked for Visiting Angels of Weber Davis, but I didn't like him near as much as s- Visiting Angels of Salt Lake. But now I have to travel in. So I said, well, I'm not going to come for 2 hours. So they totally are like, oh, we'll give you these really long shifts. And so then I worked for these people in Park City and they had to rescue me twice because it was a big storm. And so then I got taken off the schedule. And then
that,
they were like, what can we do to get Janae? We'll even pay an Uber to drive to Ogden to get her.
hey, wow.
Was like, okay, I got to cut back on the other job because people don't love me that much there.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, good. That's all I had for you tonight. Thank you all for joining us and give it some thought and stay true to truth and find that area of highest maturity and it will be your area of highest freedom. Thanks, everybody.